Have you ever found yourself sitting there, phone in your hand, and scrolling through someone's bold, beautiful post on Instagram or TikTok? You think, wow, they are so confident. They are so clear. They're so visible. Why can I not be that person? And then quietly you think, I could never do that. And maybe you can do a little post here and there, maybe even a carousel post on Instagram or repost there, something that feels safer, that doesn't require your voice or your face and your name attached to anything too bold. But when it comes to actually speaking up on camera, into a microphone, in your very own words, something stops you. And you think about the comments that might come up, and you think about people looking at your post thinking, what is she saying? What is she selling? Why does she sound like that? I could never say that. And you imagine people comparing you and judging you, even questioning why you're doing the very thing that you are talking about, why you're offering the very thing that you might talk about. And so you say nothing, and you just keep watching everyone else. And it still lingers in your heart, in your head, and it bothers you because you know that once again, you are the one blocking yourself. You're the one standing in your own way. You're the one blocking your visibility. You're holding yourself back. Even though you know you could do the job. You know you could be that person. But just that moment when it comes to it, you stay quiet, you hold back. So you watch everyone else become more visible while you hover behind the lens wondering you think you should be online. But it keeps lingering and it keeps calling you. So you wonder, somehow something isn't quite right here. Because if I'm being called to be doing this, if I should be speaking about this, if I should be sharing my story, why am I still scared? Why am I not doing it? So in this episode today, I am sharing 5 tiny habits that have helped me to move from I could never post that and I could never say that to I'm actually being seen and I'm still myself. And you know, it's a process. It's a daily process, and I am growing through this process and changing and adjusting and expanding, and I'm still watching people that are much more out there and much more themselves and much more outspoken. But I know one day I will get there and I will be that person. But for right now, I'm somewhere in the middle, and I can teach you how you can get started, because I used to be that little girl, scared to ask the waiter for ketchup, scared to ask someone on the street for the time, scared to speak to someone in the supermarket, to ask them where to find things. And I'd rather walk around for 5 minutes trying to find it myself. I know that we can get there. I know that you can get there. So today, these tips you are getting from someone that is not a teleprompter specialist, that is not a media professional who's been in front of the camera for 10 years. I'm you. I am where you were. And I have come a very, very long way now to speaking into my microphone, sharing my stories, interviewing people, being visible, starting to build credibility and trust with people. And I am being found online by the right people. I attract the right opportunities. I've gotten jobs and clients through my work, but it all wouldn't have happened if I didn't take the first step. So, habit number 1, reframe self-promotion as service storytelling. So the first habit that changed everything for me was this. I stopped asking myself, what do I want to say? And what will people think? And I started to focus on what I'm actually here to do and who I'm here to help. And what do you need to hear today? How can I help you move through this block now? And as long as we ask, what do I want to say? What will they think of me? We block our channel. So we need to become a conduit, a vessel for the information that source is channeling through us. So I'm the one who's lived the same blocks and I've reorganized them. And now we can together find a way that feels kind and clear for people. So instead of thinking to yourself, I'm promoting myself now, I need to market myself, just remember, I am offering a service, and that service is more credible and believable and understandable if I share my story. I need to talk about my expertise because otherwise people will not trust my expertise. So I need to talk about it so that people can find me and they can get my help. So that's number 1. Reframe self-promotion as service storytelling.
It seems your heart just needs a fresh start.
Great brands and thought leaders don't build authority by trying to win over algorithms. They build it through meaningful conversations and stories that get translated into multiple formats and touch points. So just like Red Bull isn't just a drink, it's a global media empire that started with inspiring conversations across high-energy touchpoints. Online brands turn long-form interview content into blog content, socials, and email series to build authority and trust across platforms. And it all starts by simply having a conversation. That's exactly what I do with my content studio Sunny Chapter. We start with a conversation, an interview, a real exchange of thoughts and ideas right here with me. Not a script, not you performing on camera. It's just you talking about your story, what you know, what you teach. And then we turn that conversation into content that builds credibility and trust for you online. Quietly, consistently, and with integrity. So if showing up online has ever felt icky, forced, or not really like you, then this is the method you've been waiting for. If that sounds like you, please do reach out to me at mel@sunnychapter.com. By the way, all the playbooks and frameworks we share here for you on Mama What's Next, we send them to you through our newsletter each week. So if you'd like to learn more, please do sign up. The link is in the show notes. Habit number 2, remind myself that nobody cares in the best possible way. That really it's about focusing on what do you want to communicate and reminding yourself that nobody cares. So it sounds a little bit harsh, but it feels deeply, deeply freeing. Most people are still sitting around judging your every post, every price, every word you say, the service you offer. But actually, they're really too busy. They spend like 2-3 seconds on your post when they're scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, because they're trying to figure out their own busy lives and their own worries. They might actually need your help. And when you tell yourself nobody cares, you really mean focus on what you're here to deliver. Don't focus on what they will think. If you actually attract their attention, then they're your people. The world is not obsessed with how you show up. It really is like that. It's not about us. It's about how we can help other people. That's when they start to care. So that means you have permission to be imperfect. You have permission to experiment and be messy. And when the fear rises, what if they judge me? They probably will not, because they might have not even seen your post. And even if they do, who cares? You're here to do a job. That's something that Steven Pressfield has reminded me of. Be the professional. But that's number 2. So that's habit number 2, remind myself that nobody cares. Habit number 3, daily micro-visibility practice. The third habit that takes your fear and turns it into a practice. I commit to a tiny daily micro-visibility practice. Well, maybe it's not every day, but it's certainly several days a week. And I put together a LinkedIn post, I write a newsletter, I film short sequences of videos where I honestly say what I'm working on, or where I do little takes on things that I've seen across my space that I can comment on. And I do Pinterest pins that show an idea, that promote a quiz, that promote some thoughts or recap some stories. I do a quick TikTok test where I try different versions of the same sentence. So the point isn't to be perfect. In fact, for me, I often just let things flow and I just receive the information. I don't script every episode. So sometimes I do, sometimes I just have a very rough idea what I want to talk about and I just flow with it. That's why the way I talk doesn't sound as scripted, and it's more like a conversation, like I'm taking you along for a conversation. So the point is to show up in progress, messy, not polished, and that's your habit number 3. It's a daily micro visibility practice, showing the messy, in progress experimentation and not just your highlight reel. Habit number 4, shift from expert to guide. Gently now shifts how you see yourself. So it's about I stop trying to be the expert and know everything 100%. And I start to be the guide to the people that I want to help, to the people that come after me. An expert has all the answers, but you don't need to be that expert. A guide has walked a path. She has had the experience. She's learned things through that experience. She has run through courses. She's done certificates, and she brings all that practical learning along with her experience. And now she helps others avoid the same potholes. So instead of I'm the woman with all the answers, I say I'm the woman who's been there. Because I have been where you are. Actually, in some cases, it's probably been worse for me. And I have learned how to work your way through this struggle, through your visibility struggles, out through this wall that you build yourself for whatever reason. We all have our reasons why we do this. And I talk about this in another episode, the mindset shifts and why this even happens in the first place. And remind yourself to be gentle and kind to yourself. You are human. You've got experience. You can help people. And there's a reason why you're being called to do the work you're stepping into. So that's habit number 4. You're moving yourself from expert to guide. And habit number 5, become a professional, like Steven Pressfield told us to. The 5th habit is my favorite because I love the books of Steven Pressfield. And he talks about becoming a professional, not in the sense of being perfect in everything, but in the sense of showing up even when you don't feel like it. The professional doesn't wait for the confidence. He doesn't wait for inspiration. The professional doesn't wait for the perfect moment. The professional shows up and does the work. So when I feel uncomfortable and when I don't want to talk, I ask myself, what would the professional do now? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is, you just got to do it. You got to move through that fear. You have to move with that uncomfortable feeling. You have to record, you have to post, and you just have to publish the video because you need to send your message. And you do it in a way that you slowly and gently work your way towards becoming more of a professional. In the beginning, you might be gentle, you might be very careful in the way you express yourself, in the way you talk about your work. The important part is to start sharing, to start speaking. It's a daily practice. It's the daily work of the professional to speak and share and become visible so that your work can become known. So that's habit number 5, and it's my very, very favorite habit. Become a professional and ask yourself, what would the professional do now? And really do it. So let's recap these 5 habits in case you want to try just one this week, and I really highly recommend that. Number 1, reframe self-promotion as service storytelling. Number 2, remind myself that nobody cares in the best possible way. Number 3, do a daily micro-visibility practice on LinkedIn, Pinterest, TikTok, Instagram. Pick 2 platforms maybe. Number 4, shift from expert to guide. You don't need to be the expert. Your experience matters and makes you a guide. Number 5, become a professional and ask yourself, what would the professional do now? And then do exactly that. And if you're that woman who still feels scared to hit share, who watches others and wonders, is this it? Should I be trying this? Nah, I'm inviting you to try just one of these this week. You don't need to become fearless. You just need to start practicing and experimenting being seen. I always say it's like nervous system training. And for me, really, it felt like that. And the more I speak, the more I show up, the more I talk in the camera or even just on the podcast. One tiny habit at a time, my confidence grows. Me being more confident in front of a camera grows. To speak to people calmly. It's a practice. And because I know how difficult this process can be for someone that's not comfortable being seen and visible, I support women through conversation. We actually turn an interview into visibility assets, into marketing assets. Through the interview, you're being asked lots of questions. I ask about your story. We talk about your work from different perspectives. And we excavate your USP and make sure that we can transport what you're really doing and how you're helping people in the best possible way. And in an interview practice, this is actually much, much easier because this is exactly how I started my visibility journey. I started the podcast, even though speaking into a microphone was so difficult for me. I started the podcast, but being on camera with someone else and actually focusing on the other person helped me be much more natural and much more authentic. And this is really about building authentic visibility. That's where it starts. Because if camera performance and being solo on camera feels unnatural to you and performative, then it likely is. And it will take some time to get to a point where that feels natural and authentic to you. So the way we start is through conversation and then repurposing interview content into marketing assets for you and into story assets that you can then post and share through different platforms and tell your story and start to take your first steps this way. So if that's something you're interested in, please find all information in the show notes. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter on mamawhatsnext/subscribe, because this is where I share our weekly letter for women over 40 who are done being invisible and ready to be found online. So every Sunday, I share one woman's story or insight to help you build your visibility, one framework to steal for your own story and positioning, and one question to ask yourself that gets you closer to being seen and booked. Thank you so much for joining me today. It has been a real pleasure, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.